Okay, let's talk about Nikola Tesla. You hear that name, and you probably think of electricity, maybe the car company. But the real story of the man who literally invented our modern world, well, it's a whole lot stranger and way more brilliant than most people know. We're about to dive into the story of the guy who tried to plug our entire world directly into the machinery of the universe itself.
You see, there are really two Nikola Teslas. On one hand, you've got the celebrated genius, right? The father of AC power, radio, the guy we learn about in school. But then there's this other Tesla, a much weirder, more mysterious figure who was talking about free cosmic energy, weapons that could end all wars, and who even thought he was getting messages from another planet. So the big question is, where does the real inventor stop and the myth begin?
To even begin to understand Tesla's most out there claims, you have to start with the mind they came from. And believe me, his consciousness wasn't just a little different, it was operating on a completely different level.
Yeah, his genius was really a mix of pure brilliance and, frankly, a lot of turmoil. After he saw his brother die as a kid, he started having these intense visions, seeing the air around him filled with what he called tongues of living flame. This led to his picture thinking, this incredible ability to design, build, and even test incredibly complex machines entirely inside his head. But with that gift came some serious obsessive-compulsive traits. He was terrified of pearls, he had to walk around a block 3 times before he'd go into a building, and, this is the wildest one, he claimed to be in telepathic contact with a specific white pigeon, who he said he loved as one would love a human being.
This right here, this quote is the key to everything. For Tesla, this wasn't some new age philosophy. It was a fundamental law of physics. He was convinced that everything, from a tiny atom to the entire galaxy, was just a massive symphony of vibrations. And he believed that if you could just learn the music, well, you could do pretty much anything.
And he didn't just think about this stuff. Oh no. He actually built machines specifically designed to tune in to the fundamental frequencies of the universe.
The key scientific principle he was playing with was resonance, and it's a pretty simple idea but with absolutely enormous power. See, every single object has a natural frequency it likes to vibrate at. If you can come along and match that exact frequency with some outside force, the energy just amplifies like crazy.
This is the perfect way to picture it. Imagine you strike a tuning fork. Its identical twin, sitting all the way across the room, will start humming all by itself, without anything touching it. It's vibrating in sympathy, right? It's catching that energy through a shared frequency. Now just imagine Tesla wanting to do that, but not with a tuning fork, with the entire planet.
And he actually proved this worked in the most spectacular and kinda terrifying way. Back in 1896, he made this tiny device that could fit in his pocket, his earthquake machine. He clamped it to a steel beam in a building that was under construction, tuned it to the building's natural resonant frequency, and flipped it on. Within just a few minutes, the whole 10-story structure started to shake violently. Workers ran for their lives thinking it was an earthquake, and Tesla had to literally smash the device with a hammer to make it stop. He had figured out how to unleash immense power with nothing but vibration.
So, that discovery, that's what led to his most revolutionary, and let's be honest, dangerous ideas. Because once you figure out how to shake a building with a pocket device, you start thinking a whole lot bigger. And those bigger ideas? They were a direct threat to the most powerful people of his day. Tesla became convinced he could tap into what he called cosmic energy, basically a limitless source of power that's just everywhere. He even used ancient Hindu terms like akasha and prana to try and describe it. And his goal was simple but absolutely world-shattering. Create a system for free wireless energy that would make fossil fuels totally obsolete, to power the entire planet for everyone for free.
And the crazy thing is, he almost did it. This timeline tells the whole tragic story of Wardenclyffe Tower. He gets funding from the legendary banker J.P. Morgan and starts building this massive transmitter. But as soon as Morgan figured out that Tesla's real goal wasn't just sending wireless messages, but free wireless power, he pulled the plug. And why? Well, you can't put a meter on free energy. Morgan was hugely invested in copper mines and all the electrical infrastructure. Free energy would have made his entire business empire worthless. So the tower was abandoned and eventually torn down for scrap metal.
After Wardenclyffe failed, Tesla learned a really hard lesson. He wrote this in his journal, basically realizing that any technology that threatens the established economic order, well, it would just never be allowed to exist. You can just feel how devastating that failure must have been for him. And that brings us to the last and maybe most haunting chapter of his life, because his death wasn't just the end of an incredible career. It was the beginning of a huge mystery about the secrets that he might have taken with him. At 86 years old, the man who dreamed up the modern world died pretty much how he lived, alone. He was found in his hotel room, room 3327, a number divisible by 3 of course, completely broke and surrounded by piles of his research.
Now, the official story says it was a simple heart attack, natural causes, but the circumstances around it were anything but simple. His nephew showed up to the room only to find that some key technical papers and a super important black notebook were already gone. Then, the FBI swoops in, grabs all 80 trunks of his life's work, and stamps top secret on all of it. They brought in a physicist, a guy named John G. Trump, yes, Donald Trump's uncle, to look at everything. He publicly declared it was all just speculative and had no value. And yet, those documents stayed classified for over 70 years.
So who would want his secrets? Well, the list is pretty long. You had the U.S. government, right in the middle of World War II, completely terrified his death ray, a particle beam weapon he claimed could vaporize entire armies, would get into enemy hands. Then you had the Nazis. FBI files actually confirmed German spies were already targeting him. And even his own nephew, who was the Yugoslavian ambassador, was under FBI suspicion because they thought he'd passed the secrets on to their communist allies.
So this all leaves us with one final massive question. Tesla once claimed his brain was just a receiver picking up knowledge from a core in the universe. We know he was working on some absolutely world-changing tech, and we know his most important papers vanish right around the time he died. It just makes you wonder